Yo, what is up YouTube? James Baek here and welcome back to another round of the Champions Cup, a big online VDC tournament that I competed in, and this is going to be, I believe it's round 5, don't quote me on that, I'm pretty sure this is round 5 of the Champions Cup, undefeated so far, 4-0 I believe during this time. But yeah, we're going to get started and get into the analysis of my round 5 match. Of course, if you could help me out, leave a like down below and leave a comment down below as well, as it really does help out with the algorithm. But yeah, today gonna be continuing on and going over my games from the Champions Cup. You know my team, it's gonna be that Dusclops, the Sableye, Dragapult, Milotic, Arcanine, and Ferrothorn. My opponent's going to be running an interesting team: Gengar, Colossal, Dragapult, Togekiss, QWILFISH, and Conkeldurr. So when I first saw this team, I'm like, oh wow, gimmicks. So I wasn't sure exactly what this was going to be. I was like, what's a QWILFISH set specifically? I know it got Intimidate, and back in 2019 it was pretty common, like Scarf Kyogre, because like QWILFISH got Swift Swim as well as Acid Spray. So Scarf Water Spout with Kyogre with Acid Spray, Swift Swim, QWILFISH was a threat. But I also know that QWILFISH does get Intimidate, and I know it gets like Taunt and Spikes and Destiny Bond, but I wasn't exactly sure. I wasn't sure if it got Aqua Jet, but that was definitely a thing I was considering as well. And yeah, I think my safest lead against like Colossal stuff was just Dusclops, Milotic, because like Colossal teams really just don't like Milotic or Dusclops in general, and it really covered for a lot of things. I was also worried about a Scarf QWILFISH with Gengar, because I was worried about it being Life Orb Gengar, and Scarf QWILFISH with Acid Spray, which could have been a pretty potential threat. Also, if it's like a crit Togekiss, that could have been scary as well. So I had to watch out for that, but I'm pretty sure like Milotic, Dusclops covered like every lead. Just how bulky the Dusclops and Milotic can be. Like they take a hit from like those Fake Tears Acid Spray combinations. So yeah, Gengar, QWILFISH will going to be leading for my opponent. I'm like, okay, we find out if it's Scarf or not, and we get to find out what Gengar is. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like a Life Orb Thunderbolt set. I have seen that before, paired with Whimsicott, especially in 2020, so I'm like, okay, we get to find out. But since this QWILFISH is Intimidate, my Milotic's competitive already activates. I'm like, +2 Milotic is a guarantee KO. We found out it's Life Orb, and it's Shucker Berry on the QWILFISH, so I'm like, okay, it's not even Scarf QWILFISH, so it probably doesn't even outspeed Gengar, right? Because QWILFISH isn't exactly the fastest Pokemon. I think it's like 90, 95 maybe. Gengar's like 110, of course. And I'm like, okay, can't I just trick him and Max Quake? Like, what can my opponent really do to punish this? I didn't see like a big play that my opponent had, because I pretty much either got a KO, got Trick Room up, or like, I guess like Gengar could have protected, Max Guarded, and then QWILFISH goes for like Taunt. But I was like not even worried about that, because that doesn't really get my opponent much momentum the following turn, because my opponent's still in a really bad spot regardless, because like this Milotic's going to be a huge threat. It's a +2, it's ready to do some damage, so like I saw no drawback to just going for the Trick Room here. Even if there's like a Taunt, I was like, it doesn't really matter, because the QWILFISH has to waste a turn going for the Taunt anyway, and I'm not like absolutely needing Trick Room in this matchup, especially since Colossal didn't lead here. So Gengar is going to be Dynamaxing as revealed. I wasn't surprised here. So yeah, so Gengar is going to Dynamax. I do Dynamax my Milotic, and yeah, I do go for the Max Quake to, of course, increase that special defense. I don't want to set up the Rain just yet, at least, and get that special defense boost in case Acid Spray comes out. I don't know what his last 2 Pokemon are, but I'm assuming it's going to be Conkeldurr, because I think Conkeldurr is a threat to my team. I definitely assumed Conkeldurr was being brought here, and then I wasn't sure about the last mon, as we are going to see a Max Ooze come out. So it wasn't even Max Lightning coming out. That does damage to my Milotic, and as you can see, it did pitiful damage. I was like pretty sure I lived like Acid Spray from a Scarf QWILFISH into Max Lightning from Life Orb Gengar, which is why I led Milotic, because Milotic has great special defense, and as you can see, it didn't take much from that Life Orb Max Ooze. Taunt comes out into the Dusclops slot, and I'm like, okay, that's cool with me, as sure, I don't get Trick Room up, but we're gonna trade your Dynamax instead. So I do get a huge Max Quake off, and at +2 it is able to knock out the Dynamax Gengar here, and I'm able to increase my special defense by 1 stage with both Pokemon. So yeah, none of my opponent's special attackers are going to do well against me, especially if it's Colossal, if it's a special Dragapult for some reason, which I really doubted. But yeah, even if you send out Colossal, it's not really going to do much. Trick Room doesn't go up because I am taunted, but like that was a pretty good trade for me regardless. I'm in a really good spot. I got rid of my opponent's Dynamax Pokemon immediately. I'm boosted right here. And my opponent sends out Togekiss, but I'm like, okay, I could just, you know, I'm going to do damage to this QWILFISH. I think I go for Max Quake here because I was like, there's no way the Togekiss should go for a Follow Me here because, like, what are you going to protect? The QWILFISH that's not doing anything? Like, it's probably a support Pokemon, so I didn't expect it to do much. So I didn't expect to Follow Me. Maybe protect Togekiss to stall out the Dynamax turns from my Milotic. And we do see a Acid Spray into Dusclops and a Yawn into Milotic, and I'm like, okay, that's cool because all I need is Milotic to do the damage. That's all I needed to do. I just needed to pick up these big damages with its competitive boost max moves. We do reveal that the Shucker Berry is eaten up, but the fact is that I'm at +2 with my Milotic and Expert Belt, so it just knocks out the QWILFISH anyway. I don't even know if it's bulky or not to survive it without the competitive boost, but yeah, we're just able to knock out the QWILFISH, and I'm able to get some free chip damage into the Togekiss slot, which is really nice there. So able to get a bit of chip into Togekiss. It's in range of +2 Max Geyser at this point. Conkeldurr is revealed to be the last Pokemon here, and I'm like, okay, what can I really do? And I'm like, I might as well just switch out an Arcanine and go for a Max Geyser and the Togekiss to do damage. And I was like, looking back at this play, actually, I went for Max Geyser. I don't know why I went for Max Geyser. I think it was to not set up a weakness policy for the Togekiss after, if Togekiss went for Protect here and it goes for Protect, I activate the weakness policy through Max Hailstorm. But looking back at this play, this really wasn't a play because it weakens the power of my Flare Blitz from the Arcanine. If I look back at this, I think I should have just went for the Max Hailstorm and activate the policy anyway, because even if it was policy on Togekiss, like, one, it's very unlikely it's policy because of Yawn, and two, like, I could just wall charge it the next turn. Like, weakening the power of my Flare Blitz I don't think was a good play. We will go for the Max Geyser though this turn into the Togekiss. Does pick up a knockout, and yeah, at this point it's looking pretty bad. A critical hit, which I don't think it mattered. I had a +2 Max Geyser at that point. I just don't think it mattered at 75%. And the Conkeldurr just going to go for a Thunder Punch into what was the Dusclops, probably trying to paralyze it. Gets a critical hit on my Arcanine, which means this end game gets a little bit more annoying, right? Because, like, now I probably have to switch out Arcanine, get in another Intimidate. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm confident I win the game at this point, because, like, Dusclops does beat the Conkeldurr besides a bunch of, like, a large amount of luck involved, right? But, like, it just means I probably have to reveal my 4th Pokemon, which would be Ferrothorn at that point. But now that I'm looking back at it, like, or when I was, like, looking at the game at the time when I was playing, I'm like, wow, this Ferrothorn really didn't do anything. Why did I even bring Ferrothorn? I guess I was worried about, like, Dynamax Togekiss at that point, but, like, it didn't even seem like it was going to Dynamax, and, like, Yawn is a less threatening set. So, 10 the offensive policy Togekiss or crit Togekiss. So, right here, I'm like, okay, Ferrothorn's kind of useless. I'll just sack my Milotic here at this point. I just got to start spreading damage to this Dusclops. My opponent can obviously rely on the sleep turns to knock out the Milotic because of the fact that I am +2, and if I do get that attack off, it's going to do way too much. So my opponent keeps targeting it as I stay to sleep, no big deal. Go back into Arcanine, get that Intimidate off into the Conkeldurr, and I just think I go back into Ferrothorn. So the next time, well, one, obviously this gets the Intimidate off, which means it's doing even less damage to my Dusclops, even though it wasn't really doing much in the first place. And I think I just protect the stall out of turn, because, like, the worst you can do is Thunder Punch my Dusclops, and again, that's not really going to do much unless you crit me or para me. So my opponent goes for the Mach Punch into the Arcanine slot, as I do go for the Nightshade once again. And basically, I'm pretty sure I have this wrapped up. I just got to keep chipping away this Conkeldurr, like, play a bit of a slow game. But right here, I'm like, okay, just keep Nightshading, and I'm just going to go into Ferrothorn, I think, so I can get another Intimidate off, because, like, I know, like, if we Mach Punch here, I'm going to reveal my Ferrothorn anyway, so I might as well just reveal it now. And, you know, Arcanine maybe can survive the Mach Punch at -3 attack from the Conkeldurr. My opponent makes a good play, though, goes for the Drain Punch, maybe hoping to crit there, but doesn't get the crit, which is nice. Good read by my opponent. That was definitely something you needed to try to get back in the game. Luckily, doesn't get it. It takes a bit of chip. Even if a critical hit did happen, I don't think it would have mattered too much, because, like, again, you would have needed to really luck out my Dusclops in order to win this game. And yeah, with the rain stopping here, which means my flare blitz is going to be at full power. What if I do get a flare blitz off? I don't know at the situation. I'm just going to keep clicking seed bomb and nightshade now, just weaken this conch a bit. Drain punch is going to come out into the Ferrothorn once again, but I'm able to survive that. And I think that after Iron Barbs, Nightshade, yeah, Nightshade and Seed Bomb does knock it out here. So yeah, there wasn't really much I can do. There was, I mean, not much my opponent could do at that point, because as you saw, I just had to play the slow game against Conkeldurr. Like, the game was pretty much over when I was getting rid of the Gengar, I think. I probably could have played the end game a little bit better, I think, for this game where I didn't have to reveal my Ferrothorn. But you know what, I do take the win, and like, I don't plan on bringing the Ferrothorn anyway to the next game. It just didn't do anything helpful, I feel like, and it just, like, I brought it because I thought the Gengar could be a bit scary, right? So, because I know that my Ferrothorn can live a +2 max move just in case. That's why I brought Ferrothorn. It was a backup for Gengar, as well as an answer for Togekiss, because if I got under Trick Room, I could start going for damage. But I'm like, none of those situations ever happened, and I really don't, and since it's not even Scarf on the QWILFISH, I don't even have to do that anymore. So I'm like, okay, I could probably just lead Dusclops Milotic again. There's really not much my opponent can really punish me with, because like, you saw that I had Max Quake. It's, if you go Colossal mode, it's not going to KO me if it gets Policy Boost, and I'm going to be able to OHKO back with Max Quake. There really isn't anything my opponent can do. I've thought about bring Ferrothorn. I think I locked into Ferrothorn originally, but then I was like, Ferrothorn didn't do anything. Like, I started realizing that Ferrothorn was just not doing anything at all against the team. I'm like, do I really need Ferrothorn? And I think I go with the Dragapult instead. I was really contemplating about this because, like, Ferrothorn is nice just in general to deal with the Togekiss and the Gengar that could get out of control. But I'm like, if I don't get Trick 'em Up again, which is decently likely, I can just go for the Dragapult endgame instead. Because, like, Dragapult does outspeed my opponent's entire team besides opposing Dragapult, which I'm not even sure my opponent's going to bring, because I'm assuming it's like a way to set up Colossal. So I'm like, okay, I'll just bring Dragapult here, because there really isn't much my opponent can do. It's also another way to, like, deal with Conkeldurr because of the fact that I could go for, like, Max Dragons and stuff if I do Dynamax to Dragapult, and it just does the most damage overall. Outspeeding Gengar is pretty huge as well if I chip it away, depending on if my opponent brings it in the back as an endgame sweeper or leads it here. So we're going to get started with game 2. I did make an adjustment bringing the Dragapult, and we'll see if it does pull out the win here. So we're going to see the Togekiss Gengar lead as I do lead my Dusclops versus Milotic, and I'm like, okay, this is a bit interesting here because okay, so I was like, you probably don't max ooze the Milotic slot again because it didn't do anything if I Dynamaxed. I didn't think my opponent would Dynamax here, so I was like, okay, if he max Ghost my Dusclops, I knock out the Togekiss and get Trick 'em Up. Because I probably live the max Phantasm from the Gengar, and I can get Trick 'em Up and knock out the Togekiss at the same time, and then that's probably game over because my opponent realistically probably couldn't do anything at that point. So I'm like, I probably just Trick Room here and go for the Ice Beam and the Togekiss. The reason I go for Ice Beam and the Togekiss instead of just Dynamaxing here is because I really don't expect my opponent to target down my Dusclops slot. Unless Togekiss Dynamax, which would be interesting, but I just don't think so if it's a Yawn set. Follow Me actually comes out from the Togekiss instead. I think maybe trying to predict the Max Quake from my Milotic, but the Gengar reveals in Prison. I'm like, oh, you stopped my Trick Room in a different way than I expected. So Ice Beam comes out into the Togekiss, does about 50%, which is good damage, and that's definitely respectable damage, and the Trick Room doesn't go up, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, my opponent probably can't Dynamax, right? Because I'm pretty sure if you Dynamax here, I'm pretty sure Imprison doesn't work that way. At least I was pretty sure. I wasn't completely sure about the mechanic, but I guess I was like, I'm about to find out, I guess. So I think I just go for the Nightshade here. Because, like, Dusclops is expendable at this point. Like, my opponent didn't lead anything that sets up, like, Colossal stuff. And I'm like, okay, I could probably just Ice Beam the Togekiss again and do some damage to the... knock out this Togekiss so my Dragapult can start going in. A Shadow Ball comes out from the Gengar, no Dynamax yet, and that does a lot to Dusclops. That actually did more than expected. I was like, does Max Phantasm actually knock out this Dusclops? Which I would have been surprised about. Yawn comes out from the Togekiss. It is faster than my Milotic. And Ice Beam does come out into the Togekiss slot, which will be able to pick up the knockout into that Togekiss. And yeah, I mean, getting that Togekiss is good, and getting this Nightshade damage is also really good into Gengar because, you know, that puts it in range of Steel Spike if I want to with my Dragapult after another Life Orb hit. So, like, I'm pretty content of where I am right now. Conkeldurr decides to come out, and I'm like, okay, that's not really bad at all. I could probably just go into Arcanine here because I don't want to take a yawn with my Milotic because my Milotic could still be valuable for an end game. So I'm going to go for I think I go for Pain Split actually into Conkeldurr in case I survive. Like, if my opponent doubles up the my Milotic slot calling the switch, and I just go for Pain Split because that is my best play here. Just weakening these things for the Dragapult because I'm like pretty confident that Dragapult Milotic could sweep in the back as long as I play this endgame right. So I do go into Arcanine, draw out that Intimidate into Conkeldurr because like there's not really much my opponent can punish me with. So we do see a Shadow Ball come out again. Does knock out my Dusclops, and like I'm okay with that trade because the Gengar's in range of both Steel Spike from my Dragapult as well as I think just regular Dragon Darts, but I wasn't really confident in regular Dragon Darts not get the Gengar at this range. Thunder Punch gonna come out into the Arcanine. Thankfully no critical hit this time and no para, so I can go out into Dragapult now, and I'm like, okay, this could get dicey here. I'm like, I was really thinking about Dragon Darts, but I didn't want to risk Dragon Darts not knocking out the Gengar because I didn't know my calc. So I'm like, okay, I think I first think about going for Max Dragon Gengar and switching my Milotic because I know I'm switching my Milotic 100% because like I want to conserve the Intimidate with Arcanine and I want to put a way to pressure my opponent's side with the Milotic. But I was like, you know what, Steel Spike is just such a safe play and going to Milotic too because like I get to boost up with both of these Pokemon's defense, and I think it's just better overall that I increase my defense immediately instead of just lowering the attack on the Conkeldurr. So I do go for the Steel Spike. I'm not sure if Max Steel Spike or Max Dragon was the correct play because my opponent's Togekiss went down, so I could have went for Max Dragon here. But I was like, I probably don't even KO the Gengar through Protect with either move unless I go for Max Phantasm. But I want to definitely get some kind of momentum with either Steel Spike or Max Dragon so the Conkeldurr doesn't do as much damage besides a crit. So I was like, I might as well just Steel Spike at this point. So I do go for the Steel Spike here because I already got the Intimidate on a Conkeldurr, so I felt like the +1 defense was would have helped better calc-wise than the Conkeldurr being -2 at that point. So able to get the Steel Spike off, knock out the Gengar. Drain Punch does come out into the Milotic, and as you can see, just really doesn't do much after the Intimidate and the +1 defense from Steel Spike. And we're gonna get to find out my opponent's last Pokemon, which I wasn't sure at the time, but it is actually Colossal. And I was like, wow, I was actually super surprised to actually see Colossal out, but this worked out beautifully for me because now I can go for the Max Dragon of Colossal. And the, I think I go for Muddy Water. Yeah, I go for Muddy Water because, like, if Colossal goes down, it's a wrap. And I wasn't sure if Expert Belt Muddy Water would knock out Colossal if it Dynamaxed here. And I was like, okay if Colossal Dynamaxed and went for Max Guard. Like, that was worst case scenario. And I was like, even if that happens, as long as Conkeldurr doesn't crit me, I'm like, I'm still in like an okay spot, right? So I'm like, yeah, I think I should be good regardless. And like Conkeldurr wasn't really doing much after the Intimidate and the Steel Spike. So I felt like targeting Colossal was the better play. And yeah, I think I do go for it. I think I could have probably just switched out my Milotic though into Arcanine and went for an attack into the Conkeldurr. I think that would have been better, like in hindsight, like that would be the better play regardless, and I think I would probably do that the next time. But yeah, Thunder Punch comes out into the Milotic. Muddy Water did okay amount. Thunder Punch doesn't really do much, and like I probably win here as long as I just hit my Muddy Water, right? So I am gonna go for Muddy Water here, go for the Max Dragon. It is my best play regardless, just lowering down this Conkeldurr's attack, going for that Muddy Water into the Colossal. 85% of the time I do win this game 100%, so might as well go for that 100% win 85% of the time, you know what? So I do go for the Max Dragon here. Doesn't do as much as I thought. Colossal's actually decently tanky, as I do lower that attack on the Conkeldurr once again. And if the Colossus physical or mixed, I do damage. Muddy Water, you know what, this move. This Milotic still, I don't know what round it was. I think it was round 3. Still missing Muddy Waters on those fire types. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe the lights gained to Milotic size, but the Max Overgrow does come out from the Colossal. Does target down my Milotic, and I'm like, okay. I was like, do I lose at this point? I'm like, I could probably still win. It really just depends on what my opponent's play is next turn. So Grassy terrain gets set up on the field, which is kind of good, kind of bad at the same time. Drain Punch comes out, but probably just doubling up on my loading slot. But at this point, yeah, it's not like the worst position, but still not exactly the ideal position for me, because I just don't know. Because I know my opponent's going to go for Vocal Lift the next turn, and yeah, this is going to be an awkward spot to be in. This is a really awkward spot to be in, because like my opponent's guaranteed a Vocal Lift here if he targeted the Arcanine slot, so I'm like, And then like even if I give it a Conch Kelder, it's still like a 1v1. Colossal is chipped, but I'm going to be taking Vocal Lift damage for like the next 4 turns, and that's bad. But like I think my play I had to make here was go for Dragon Darts here, and I think I have to go for Flare Blitz in the Conch Kelder, because it's a Solvest Conch Kelder at this point, I'm pretty convinced, because of the fact that it never went for Protect, it's not Life Orb, and it's not Flame Orb. So I'm like, okay, I got to get rid of Conch Kelder, because I got to get single target Dragon Darts damage into Colossal in the first place. And yeah, there wasn't really a better play I could do. I wasn't sure if Life or Flare Blitz would even knock out Conch Kelder anyway, so I'm like, might as well just go for Dragon Darts to make it a guaranteed KO, as my opponent does get to the Vocal Lift here. And yeah, I'm like, okay, probably game over, I think. But my opponent actually targets Dragapult, which is like, oh my lord, this was huge. If you targeted Arcanine, that was game over. But like, since my opponent actually targeted Dragapult, I actually don't agree with the Dragapult. I guess my opponent was like worried about Ancient Power endgame, but I thought like even if Arcanine protected right against Vocal Lifting, the rock damage was so important to Dragapult. Like you could just stall it out by chipping and then going for Ancient Power and like protect stalling. Because now what you did was because like I could have also went for Phantom Force too. That was also why I was confused. Like I could Phantom Force there, and that would have been absolutely game over for you. But now I'm like, okay, I think I win as long as my opponent doesn't get like a triple Protect. So Protect does come out from the Colossal in the first one. I think I went for Darts here, and looking back at this play, Darts was definitely, I think, a mistake. I think I should have went for Phantom Force, because like Phantom Force in a close, because like Phantom Force prevents that situation. I think I went greedy and went for damage because I thought close combat wouldn't KO, but I'm like, that was pretty dumb of me looking back at it, because I could have just went for the Phantom Force next turn, and even after the grassy terrain, like I think Life or close combat would either KO or barely miss the KO at that point. So Phantom Force was sure to KO even after grassy terrain healing, and it went through a Protect. So I go for close combat here and another Dragon Darts, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's fine regardless because of the HP. Like even if my opponent got the triple, I think my opponent needed a quadruple actually to win at this point. So I go for Dragon Darts in close combat, and I am able to go down. I mean, I'm able to beat down the Colossal with my Arcanine. So able to pick up, I believe this was the round 5 win. I actually am getting like a lot of these rounds confused, because I actually didn't remember the game until I looked back at it, because I thought I like played someone else. But then when I was looking back at the video to get a grasp of what I was playing, I'm like, oh, I remember this guy now when I looked at the video. And I'm like, yeah, that team was kind of crazy, right? You got the Colossal. I don't even know if it was Aquajet on the QWILFISH or not, but we're able to pull through. Luckily, this team kind of like invalidates a lot of the sudden weakness policy boosts, because like my Lodex is just too strong. My Lodex is too strong. Haze Dust Gloves is too strong. There wasn't really much my opponent could do momentum wise. Had a lot of cool tricks though. Like, I definitely want to try out the QWILFISH in the future. Maybe not the Shuckaberry set, but like, QWILFISH does sound like, you know, a pretty fun time now that I look back at it. So, yeah, maybe I try out QWILFISH in the future. But that's going to be it for this round analysis. I felt like I was in a pretty good spot. Like, if it was like somehow going to game 3, I still think my opponent should have targeted down the Arcanine slot, by the way. I think that would have gave a 100% win. Or maybe not 100%. But I still think it would have been better, because like I think the Vocal Lift damage, it's what, 1/6, because it's like Wildfire, and then you keep pairing it down with like your Ancient Power, but I'm not doing any damage to the Colossal other than Dragon Darts, which is doing okay damage, but like you're stacking up the Vocal Lift damage, plus you could Ancient Power, which is gonna do like a decent amount to the Dragapult. So I thought that was my opponent's play, but luckily able to claw that one and pick up the win. So I hope that everyone enjoyed today's video, or this analysis of my Champions Cup round 5 match. If you do want to check out the other matches, you can check them out on my YouTube channel. If you do enjoy this content, let me know in the comments down below, as well as leave a like on this video. It really does help. And yeah, you can hit that subscribe button if you do want more content and want those notifications. Be sure to hit that bell notification too to get the latest updates of when these videos go out. But yeah, let me know what you think. Round 5, I believe 5-0 in the Champions Cup. Not a bad record indeed. I really hope this was round 5. I'm pretty sure this was round 5, right? Because round 3 was like the Sand Team of Braviary, and I think I posted round 4. Maybe I didn't. Maybe this was round 4? Oh man, I can't even remember. I gotta look this up actually. I'm not stalling the video, I promise. I'm just I feel like this was round 5. Pretty sure this was round 5. Yeah, because round 4 was against the Sableye, right? The Assault Vest Sableye. But hope everyone enjoyed today's video. You can check out my other stuff down below. You can join my community Discord. You can check me out on Twitch where I do live stream, ask me VGC questions on either of the community Discord or my Twitch channel. And yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you all for tuning in. You can check out my main tiers, back-to-back battles, VGC back-to-back battles, where I play VGC games. And yeah, that's going to be it. Have a great day, people. Until we battle again, I'll catch you all later.